Hello, hello. It is Nicola here. I am just doing some technical maneuvers. I wanted to go live in my Facebook group. And it wasn't letting me, so I'm just going to try and do it this way. Yes. There we go. So this is going to be the roadmap to Radiate training, 5 steps to compelling confidence. Let me see if this works. If not, we might have to have plan B, but we will see. I'm just gonna check that I'm going live where I need to be going live. Yay! Fantastic. So if you can see me and hear me, let me know. Let me know. Because I've had to do this in a bit of a convoluted way. And I know there's a bit of a lapse, so we will see how we get on. I am going to get into all of the juicy details in a moment, sharing with you the 5 steps to writing your book with compelling confidence, and sharing the roadmap with you. Let's see. Just give me a sharing the roadmap. I think I am. I think I'm good. I think I am good. I'm just going to tag everyone in the group and then we get going. Oh my goodness. I want to share like this really fancy roadmap with you. So, okay. I'm going to stop distracting myself. Welcome to this free training, roadmap to Radiate, 5 steps to writing with compelling confidence. I am Nicola Humber. I think most of you know me, especially if you're here in the group. I'm an author myself, founder of the Unbound Press, a soul-led publishing company for magical beings, writing world-changing books and, well, transformational books, certainly. And I mean, I do believe that every time a woman shares her story, like the world shifts. And that can feel big. Like, it's one thing to think about writing a book like that, a transformational book where you are sharing your unique magic, your unique medicine, your story in the book. It's another thing to actually do it, because that can feel pretty terrifying. And the number one thing that I find holds women back when they like feel really called to write a book, they know that's what they're meant to do, but this lack of confidence holds them back. Fears and doubts bubble up, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm not sure, like, who am I to do this? Will anyone want to read my book? Is my writing good enough? What if it does really well and reaches lots of people? Like, how will I handle that? You know, will I be criticized? Is it self-indulgent to write a book? Like, it's endless, the stuff that comes up. So yeah, that's what this training is about today, to take you through 5 really tangible steps, or certainly the actions within the steps are really tangible things that you can do to anchor into more confidence with your writing and actually get to the point where you complete your book. So I'm going to share my screen because I've got this really gorgeous roadmap that I want to share with you. Let me get to it. Okay, so here is the roadmap to Radiate, the 5 steps to writing with confidence. It's really pretty, isn't it? It's really pretty. If you've got questions as we go through, I am checking in the Get Book Ready group. So if you pop them in the comments in the group, then I will do my best to answer them during this session. If you are watching it on my Facebook page, then definitely pop any questions in the comments and I'll come back afterwards and answer them. I probably won't get to both places. We'll be here all day. Okay, so look at this gorgeous roadmap. And if you would like a copy of this, it's a Google sheet, but all of them, like there's notes on each of these steps that will give you pointers on, like I said, really tangible ways to anchor into more confidence. Then just put hashtag roadmap in the comments and I will send one over to you, because I want to make sure that you've got everything that you need to move ahead with your book with confidence, you know, feeling, yes, like I can do this. I am the person to do this. So there are 5 steps here. It's like the Jenny, it's obviously about the phoenix rising. And that's really how I see us when we are writing our books, when we are giving ourselves permission to write our books, to share our magic with the world. You know, that's what we are doing, rising like phoenixes. I don't know if that's the plural term for a phoenix, to be honest, because often what you're writing about is a very challenging experience that you've had, or challenging experiences that you've had, and you know that is what is giving you the knowing, the wisdom that you want to share. So we're really going through this process of getting totally distracted to see if there's any comments. I'm just going to focus on giving you the training now. Yeah, we're going through this process of like being, it's a bit, maybe it's a bit much, but it's not really, being rebirthed, reborn through our book writing process. And I see it over and over again, actually, with the authors that I work with. You know, they write their book, they publish it into the world, and then their life transforms in a way that they could never have expected. And I've experienced that myself personally after, you know, through my books, my whole life has changed. My business changed. You know, the Unbound Press never would have been a thing if I hadn't written Unbound, my second book. And it's just, you know, created this amazing community, this amazing business, which I could never have hoped for. So, you know, we are called to step into who we're really here to be when we allow ourselves to write the books that we feel called to write. So I'm going to take you through the 5 steps now. You know me, well, you might not know me. But if you know me, you know that I can talk, I can go off on a tangent. I'm going to do my best not to do that and keep it pretty simple, pretty direct. Everything is here on the roadmap. And like I said, you can get access to this afterwards for free. Just put hashtag roadmap in the comments. I will send it over to you. Also at the end, I am going to talk about a way that, you know, you can get support to actually work through these 5 steps, and a new 5-week program where we get to move through these steps together. But let's dive in. Okay. So the first step on the roadmap to Radiate is to find your writing voice. Okay. So that sounds pretty straightforward, but very often we have been taught, conditioned to write in a particular way. Like when we go to school, we're taught to write in a very particular way to meet somebody else's needs and expectations. Same thing when we go to, when we start work. You know, you're expected to write in a very particular way, a professional way. If you've been in academia, again, like you have to write in this very particular way. So we kind of lose touch with what our own writing voice is. It's something that hasn't been encouraged, that we haven't been kind of allowed to do often. So it's like, I don't know, like how do I write? And very often, especially, I see this especially when it comes to writing a book, we have this idea that we have to write a book properly. We have to do it in this kind of really sensible way. And we don't allow enough of ourselves to come through in our writing. So when you're trying to write like someone else, or as you should, it's hard to feel confident. You know, it's really hard to anchor into confidence because you're not being yourself. So this step is about giving yourself permission to write like you. And actually your writing voice is very often going to be like your speaking voice, like the way you would speak to somebody. So the first step here, because there are micro steps within each of these 5 steps, and like, you know, tangible things that you can do to get clear on what your writing voice is. So the first one is to really look at the elements of your voice. And here you want to be paying attention to, you know, what are the particular words or phrases that you use often? Okay. And you might think, well, we all use the same kind of words, Nicola, you know, but there will be certain things that you use like in conversation, and really this is in conversation, or if you were writing like a message or an email, I was going to say like letter or postcard, but we don't kind of do that anymore, do we? But if you were writing to a friend in some way, what are the kind of words and phrases you use? So as an example, I often use, I'm always using the word magical, magic. Like I call people like magical one, unbound, obviously, because, you know, that's my whole thing, unbound. Potent is another word that I use a lot. There are certain words that just come up at time and time again when I'm in conversation, and, you know, I've allowed those to come through in my writing as well. So, you know, when I'm writing for my book, I will speak directly to the reader and, you know, call them magical one, like, oh, you know, do you feel the same magical one? Yeah. So it's about making it more personal. Also thinking about what's your natural style. Like, do you, like, it's fine if you have a more formal way of communicating, you know, but do that because it's your natural style, not because you've been taught or expected to do that. For me, I guess my natural style is unbound, which is quite good. Because then if things go wrong, or like I make a mistake in my writing, it's like, well, it's unbound. Humor is also important to me. Like, you know, is humor something that you naturally bring through when you're communicating? Like if you're speaking with somebody, is that something that's important to you? Are you more gentle? Are you more kind of feisty? You know, really thinking about like, really, what is my style? And you might want to kind of write down some different qualities that you have and that you want to bring through in your writing. And this is about really noticing how you communicate with friends, because really you want to be thinking about, I mean, generally, I would say for any book, or certainly most books, there might be times when, you know, we don't do this, but most of the time you want to be thinking about your reader as a friend, like somebody who sat over the kitchen table from you, you're having a chat, like you're passing on your wisdom, you're telling them your story, and that's how you want to be communicating. So really thinking about the elements of your voice, your unique voice. Then the second step here is to, just checking if there's any questions. The second step here is to define your mission. This is really about connecting with your purpose, your specific purpose, your unique purpose for your book. So this is not about necessarily like your overall purpose. Like that can feel quite big and lofty, like what is my life purpose? It's like with this particular book that I'm called to write, like what's your intention for your book? Because when we have a strong intention, that is going to help us to feel clearer and more confident. What do you want to create? Like, what do you want to create with your book? How do you want your readers to feel? What do you want to be different? Like, what's the difference you want to make in the world? And you can, like, with this step, create like a manifesto, answering those questions, and really getting clear on what your purpose is for your book. Like, yes, like writing a book is an amazing process to experience for ourselves, but like we're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for a reason. So what's the impact you want to have? And you can create like this, you can write it down, you can make it into some like gorgeous artwork. Or like I said, just kind of write down some words, creating a manifesto, like reminding you of your purpose, your mission for your book. And the final step in this first stage of writing with compelling confidence and competence is to access your authenticity. So you really, I mean, this kind of follows on from the first one, elements of your voice, but you really want to allow your writing to be as authentic as possible. So what you can do with this stage is go back through a previous piece of writing that you've written. So maybe it's something for your book. It could be a social media post. It could be a blog or an article that you've written. I would say preferably something for your book. Take a piece of your writing and go through it. You can kind of be quite forensic with this and see whether it is truly authentic. Okay. Really ask the question as you're going through, like, how would you write it if you felt completely confident? And it's fine, like you can really, there's a writing prompt that we use in the world of unbound writing, and it's like writing to your edges. So I think often, you know, giving ourselves permission to be our most authentic self, that can feel edgy. So how would you write it if you felt completely confident, if you allowed yourself to go to your edges? Like you can do this just for you. Like you can tell yourself, I don't need to share this with anyone. I'm just doing it as an experiment. Yeah, and just see what would be different. It might not be much, you know, maybe you've written it in a really authentic way, but very often there will be like at least small changes that we can make to make it more authentic. How would you write it if you gave yourself permission to be fully you? This is a really interesting exercise to do. So that's the first step, find your writing voice. I'm just checking in. Okay. So as I said, if there are questions coming up, do pop them under the video. I'm not checking. So the second stage is to alchemize fear. Easy, right? You can see this is a little picture of us alchemizing our fear. So this is like transforming your fear and your doubts into the gold of compelling writing. But how on earth do you do that? The first step is to uncover your fears. So if you have the free Ditch Your Doubts playbook, this is the first step in that playbook. So if you are here in the group, Get Book Ready, and you haven't got access to that already, you will find it in the welcome post. There's a link to the Ditch Your Doubts playbook there. And this is an exercise which I invite you to go through in the first step. So what we do here is, rather than like shying away from our fears and doubts or trying to ignore them, push past them, no, you get to invite them into your awareness. You get to like ask, like, what is the specific flavor of fear or doubt that I'm experiencing around writing my book? Like, what's really coming up for me? And I really invite you to go into some detail with this. Like, you know, don't just look at the top level fear of I'm not good enough. It's like, well, what's underneath that? You know, what we do, you know, although it can feel counterintuitive, when you invite your fears and doubts into your awareness, when you make space for them, it shifts the energy around them, it frees something up. And also, and this is the magic of a community, you know, here in the Get Book Ready group, I've asked some questions like, you know, what feels like the major fear that's holding you back at the moment? And when people start to share them, you kind of recognize that everyone has similar fears and doubts, like you're not alone with what's coming up for you. And that really helps to alchemize what we're experiencing. So that's the first step. The second step is to own your magic. And part of this is turning that, like, who am I to do this question on its head. So, you know, this is something that very often comes up. Like, I've heard somebody just today using this same phrase, like, who am I to do this about the new book that she's writing? And what we can do is, rather than looking at, oh, who am I to do this? Like, who, you know, how can I possibly think that I'm the right person to write this book, or that I'm qualified to write this book, is to think, actually, who am I to do this? Because actually I'm the perfect person to write my book. You know, we're looking at why you're exactly the person to write your book, the only one who can do it. And what you want to do here is really go to town and write down all of the experiences that you've had, the learnings that you've had, what's brought you to this point that makes you the perfect person to write your book. So again, it's really anchoring into that confidence that, yes, yeah, I might be scared about like how I'm going to do it and what the response might be, but I'm the only person who could write this, because I am the only person who's had that unique kind of recipe of experiences during my life. Yeah. So turning the who am I to do this question on its head and really owning your magic. And very often this is about like acknowledging the challenging experiences that we've had, because that's where the gold is often. Like when you've been through something really challenging, either like you've got so much learning from that, which you want to pass on to other people, so they don't have to find it so challenging, or that they feel supported in what they're going through. Or when we're going through something really challenging, often that we have these breakthrough moments or awakening moments where we kind of open up into different layers of our gifts. So, you know, these are all reasons why we're the perfect people to write our book. And then the next stage of alchemizing your fear, the next kind of, I was going to call it a micro step. It's not so micro, to be honest. This one can feel quite meaty, but it's to bring it to the page. So when a particular fear or doubt is bubbling up, what I invite you to do here is to bring it into your writing. So rather than going, I don't feel good enough, or I'm feeling scared about this, you know, I'm scared of what people might think about me, so I'm obviously not meant to do this. Bring it into your writing, acknowledge it on the page. And like this can obviously be in your journal, but what I would recommend is you bring it into the writing you're doing for your book. So you can write something like, you know, say you're writing about something that feels quite vulnerable. Rather than like not acknowledging that, you can say, and as I'm writing this, I'm feeling really vulnerable. I'm wondering what you might be thinking of me as I'm sharing this with you. I'm wondering what the response will be from other people who I know and don't know. And it's bringing up a lot of fear. And actually, when you do that, you are one, it shifts something for you, because it's like, rather than just trying to put a face on it and pretend that, no, I'm fine, you're acknowledging that there is fear or doubt bubbling up. But it also creates a lot of connection with your reader, because they're very likely to either be experiencing something similar right now in that moment as they're reading your book, like there's a reason why they've come to your book, or they will have experienced something similar in the past. So it's always really freeing when somebody like shares their vulnerability with us, when it's done in an authentic way. Yeah, it's like, it's like you breathe a sigh of relief. It's like, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me. It's not just me who struggles with tech. It's not just me who, you know, all of the things, who messes things up sometimes. So bringing it to the page is a really powerful way to alchemize any fear or doubt, but also supercharge your writing. Like it's a win-win. Okay. So this is step 2. Let's move on to step 3. Let's do it. So step 3 is cultivating some kind of dedicated writing practice, because the way we become more confident in our writing is to write. Like we don't get more confident just by thinking about our writing. Do it? No. It would be nice if we could just think about something that we wanted to be confident in and it magically happened. But no, we have to be in the action of it, the doing of it, and the being, like, of the author that you're here to be, in order to anchor into more confidence. So I've purposely used the word dedicated here rather than consistent, because I know consistent is a bit of a lot of a trigger word for many of us. But having that sense of dedication, like showing up for your book, showing up for yourself as a writer. And to do that, we need and want it to feel like something we want to do, rather than some kind of chore. I'm not saying your writing will never feel like a chore, and there are particular stages of the book writing process that may very much feel like a chore, but as much as possible we want to make it feel good. So that's what this first step is about, the pleasure principle. How can you make your writing practice something you want to do, that even feels like a treat? And there are ways that you can do this. Like, a lot of it is about environment, like where you write. You can create this really gorgeous environment where you write. Maybe, like for me, I don't want to be writing at my desk. It feels like it takes me back to school, work. No. So I like to write like being as horizontal as possible, to be honest. So I'll be over on I've got a chaise longue in my office, which is amazing. So either on that or in bed, like, you know, lighting a candle, some incense, maybe pulling a card beforehand, just making it really yummy, listening to some gorgeous music. I don't listen to music when I'm writing, 'cause for me, that it's a distraction, but that may feel good for you. It may be taking yourself like out on a writing date and writing somewhere else, maybe a coffee shop, or, you know, somewhere that feels good, writing out in nature. Very often I'll go for a walk before writing, so being in nature really supports my writing. In the summer, I like to be out in the garden writing. So what feels good, like allowing your writing practice to be something that feels like it's something that you're doing for you, feels like an act of self-care, and a treat. The second step here is to really make it you, because there's not one way that we should be writing our books. There's not one way to do it. Like, you get to do it in a way that is in alignment for you. which doesn't mean it will never feel challenging, like definitely at times it will, but as much as possible, you can make your writing practice yours. So what this means is writing in alignment with your unique cyclical nature, like recognizing that your energies will ebb and flow, and that's okay. We don't have to rigidly show up every day to write. Knowing what time of day works best for you. Again, if you're watching this in the Get Book Ready Facebook group, that's one of the questions that I've asked here in the group. And it's very purposeful, like these questions that I ask here in this community, like I get you to reflect on, because like very often, yeah, there might be a time of the day that works best for us, but we kind of ignore that somehow. And we try and write in a way that isn't us. Yeah. So, you know, if early morning works best for you, amazing. Just carve out some time then. If like late at night works for you, great. Then write there, and don't feel you have to kind of fit into somebody else's schedule. Do you work best? Do you write best in short spurts or long stretches? So I am a short spurt girl. You know, I like to kind of sit down, get writing, quick and dirty, and then get out. Whereas some people like to spend like hours writing at a time. Amazing. So it's really feeling into what feels best for me. And also when it comes to like handwriting, like your words, typing, or even speaking your words, like doing it in a way that feels good for you. Again, that's a question that I've asked here in the Get Book Ready group. And you know, very often maybe we have this expectation that we have to go straight into typing it. Maybe that doesn't feel good. Like maybe you would prefer to handwrite the writing for your book first, or maybe you prefer to speak your words, like really making your writing practice yours. Because when you do it in a way that feels good for you, you're much more likely to be dedicated. I was going to say be consistent, but we don't use that word. Can be inconsistently consistent. And then there's this idea of divine discipline. Again, discipline can be a word that triggers us. This is a practice that I talk about in my second book, Unbound, actually, not related to writing specifically, but it applies really well to writing. So rather than just be like, right, I've got to be disciplined and you know, show up for my book every day because, you know, that's what a disciplined person would do. You have this sense of divine discipline where you're writing in service to something greater. So this could relate back to in the first step when we were talking about your mission, your purpose, like really connecting with that I am writing in service to like this change that I want to create in this world, like this impact that I want to have. It could be that you write in service to the goddess. It could be that you write in service to love. It could be that you write in service to Mother Earth. Yeah, you're writing in service to something greater. And when we do that, it kind of shifts the energy around discipline. Like it really ties in with this idea of dedication, devotion. Like all of those D words are really, really, apart from discipline, they're really powerful when it comes to shifting the energy around our writing practice, making it feel freer, but also, like I say, having that sense of dedication. So you are actually like writing your way into more confidence because you are showing up for your book. So that's step 3. Just checking in. Like I say, if you do have questions that are bubbling up, do feel free to pop them in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, use the hashtag replay and feel free to pop any questions because I will come back and answer them afterwards. So stage 4. Oh my goodness, I'm just looking at the time. I was like, I'd probably be able to do this in half an hour. We're nearly 40 minutes in. So, but we are getting on to the final 2 steps. So Step 4 is complete confidence. And this is about harnessing the power of completion, like the magic of completion. Like, this is really big. And the wonderful thing about a book is it's something we actually get to complete. It is a project which has a very definite kind of ending point, because it ends up as a physical thing in your hand. It's like, yes, it is done. And, now it gets to go out into the world. But we don't have to wait until our books are complete to kind of harness the magic of completion. And this is another thing that gives us so much confidence, when you know that you can get into this habit of completing projects or part of projects. I know a lot of us are not completer finishers, like I am definitely not. So like the other stages that we've talked about here will help you to carry you through your book writing journey. But also, let's move on to this first one. Breaking it down into one step at a time is a really powerful way to do this. So rather than thinking about the whole book, thinking about what can you complete, like today, what piece of writing could you complete today, or what could you do for your book today? Yeah, even if it's just 5 minutes, setting yourself a task to do related to your book and ticking it off the list. We love ticking things off the list, don't we? So what can you do? What can you complete today, this week, this month? It's being intentional about every step of the way with your book. So maybe it's, you decide to write, like over the summer, we did a writing sprint, an unbound writing sprint, where the invitation was to write at least 5 minutes every day. Yeah, most people wrote longer, but at least 5 minutes. And as you complete each one, ticking it off, because each time you do that, you're sending the message to yourself, yes, I am doing this. I'm writing my book, and that confidence starts to grow. This next step is revise to radiate. Yay. So this is about indulging your inner editor. Yeah. Because very often something that can hold us back or jam us up is, as you're writing your book, as you're allowing the words to come through, you want to go into editing mode. So I always recommend you allow the words to come through freely. You don't go into editing mode when the words are coming through. But there is a part of us, for me, it's like my inner good girl. She loves to have a good edit, who wants to take our writing and make it all shiny, make it how we want it to be. So what you can do here is indulge that part of you. Take a piece of writing, something you've already written, and with these first 3 steps that certainly the first 2 steps that we've already moved through, like finding your writing voice and alchemizing fear, like make it shine. So, bringing through more of your unique voice, perhaps noticing any fears or doubts that come up around the piece and bringing those to the page, and really bringing it together into a complete piece. So maybe it's a chapter of your book, maybe it's one section of your book, maybe it's something you've written like around your book, like a blog or an article or a social media post even. But notice how it feels to have a completed piece. And perhaps, if you're super courageous, you could share it in some way, or a section of it. And this is where like community is a really powerful place to like creating community around your writing, but also being part of community as you are writing your book, because you get to do this next step, which is celebrating your wins, like celebrating your completions. Like we can spend so long, like with our eyes on the road ahead, thinking, especially when you're writing a book, it's like, like I've got all this way to go. And we are totally neglecting what we've already done, as you can see me demonstrating. with this hand movement behind me. I don't know what that's about. Anyway, so rather than focusing on what's still to be done, choose to celebrate every single step. Yeah, this is something, again, we're not encouraged to do. It's like, if you haven't done the whole thing, then, you know, don't bother. But no, I want you to get into the habit of celebrating what you've completed each week. This is something that I encourage in all of the spaces that I hold, all of the communities that I hold space for. Generally on a Friday, there'll be some kind of celebration thread. And again, that's very intentional, because it's getting you into the habit of focusing on what you have done, who you are being. And really with this, it's honoring and celebrating every step of the way with your book, rather than thinking you don't get to do that until it's out in the world. Of course you do when it does go out into the world. There's something else we've been speaking about over the past week or so is book launches. That gets to be a huge celebration, but you get to celebrate along the way. And, community is a really powerful way to do this. Let's move over. Phoenix rising. Yes. So step 5. Step 5 is to showcase your story, and you do not have to wait until your book is out in the world to do this. So some people think, I can't say I'm an author or start talking about my book or sharing elements of my book until it's out in the world. And no, you get to share right from the beginning of your process. And actually, this is something, again, it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing, or phoenix and egg, because, well, I totally distracted myself then. We can be scared to share our story, more widely. There can definitely be fear or doubt coming up. And actually what's going to help us to move past that fear is actually in the sharing of it. Again, it's this thing where we don't get more confident in sharing our story by thinking about sharing our story and kind of perfecting it in our minds. We get more confident by actually showing up and sharing. And there are ways that actually we can make that more easeful for us. So the first one I'm talking about here is to, get media ready. And this doesn't mean kind of making sure that you are perfect and that you're going to speak in this really super professional way if you're being interviewed, as you can tell. That is not the vibe at all, but it's just putting in place what you need to in order to feel more confident. So this can be preparing a simple media kit that you have, which will enhance your confidence, and it will also elevate your status. If somebody is asking you for information, maybe you're going to be on a podcast or part of a summit or something like that, and somebody's asked for your details, like your bio and pics, you can send over your media kit, which is really like a PDF, like a couple of pages generally. And yeah, sending over something like that where it says, it's got your bio, it's got some pics, it talks a bit about your experience and the kind of things that you are wanting to talk about or share about. Simple things like that are going to make a big difference. Like having your author bio ready, having your bio on Instagram or social media, reflecting the author that you are. All of those things are going to give you that foundation that will make you feel more confident with your writing and yourself as the author you're here to be. Really reflecting on where to share. And again, this is about really doing some research on where you want to share your story, your message, sharing about your book, sharing about your writing, sharing pieces of your writing in places that feel aligned and good for you. So rather than being reactive, maybe someone says to you, oh, could you come and talk to my group about this, or do you want to be on my podcast? That's amazing. And then, we're definitely open to that. But also you get to be proactive And this is like really stepping into compelling confidence, and research places where you can share your magic. Yeah. So, you know, whether that's podcasts, summits, publications, events, whether it's like speaking or writing, you know, there are lots of ways that we can be doing this research and looking at where we want to be featured, where we want to be seen. You know, there are different groups like here on Facebook where, you know, that's their specific purpose. So really being intentional about where you want to share and being proactive around that. And the final step, ready for radiance. You are that phoenix rising out of the flames. And this is to start sharing in a way that feels good for you. Being intentional about the engagement that you want. Yeah, like, again, we're going back to like your mission, your purpose. What is it that you want to create through you sharing about your book, sharing about your writing? You build confidence through sharing and noticing your reaction to the responses you receive. So, like, very often there are fears or doubts that come up around, you know, well, what will people think of me? You know, what if somebody doesn't like what I'm sharing? Like, how will people respond? So through the act of sharing, you start to really notice the responses that you're receiving, like really take time to let them land and notice how that feels. And again, this is the only way we get to move through it, not through thinking about, oh, what would it be like if somebody like challenged me with something that I shared? Like, we allow ourselves to share, and then if we have that experience, then we get to handle it and figure it out and notice how it feels and anything we need to put in place to support us with that. And again, community is a great way to experiment with this. So there we go. We have the 5 steps of the roadmap. Radiate, writing with compelling confidence. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. As I said, if you would like a copy of that roadmap, you can have one for free. Just put the hashtag roadmap in the comments and then I will send one over to you. If you've been looking at that, I mean, each one of those, they are tangible steps that you can take, and like the 3 actions within each of the 5 steps, you know, there are things that you can work through and do, like, which will help to build confidence in yourself as the author that you're here to be and in your writing. That if you would like to do that in community together, then I am hosting a new group program over 5 weeks, starting on October the 16th. It's called Compelling Confidence. And we will go through each of those 5 steps, like week by week, and each of those 3 actions within each of the steps, like we will work through all of that together. For each of the steps, there will be a really short training and like some kind of resource, worksheet, like invitation, action for you to take. And we'll do it. We'll work through the whole process over the 5 weeks. So if that is something you're interested in, like I said, we start on October the 16th, but for this weekend until Monday morning at 9 a.m, I am offering like special equinox pricing. So it's going to be £111 for the program, but you can get in for £88 over this weekend, like if you join this weekend. So I'm going to pop the details under this video so that you can have a look, and hopefully you will join me, because yeah, it's, you know, you definitely can do it on your own, but there's something about doing it together which is so powerful and helps to grow our confidence as well. Okay, I'm gonna look and see if we have any questions. Check over on the old Facebook page as well. And if we haven't, like I said, if any questions come up, then just pop them below. Yay. Oh, Magdalena, you found me. Oh, and you say you do still write letters sometimes as your family is abroad. Some are old school and abroad. Love that. Love that. Oh, and you found me on my page. Fantastic, Magdalena. Okay, my loves. Look, like I said, any questions at all, please do just pop them below and I will come back and answer them. I'm going to put the details of Compelling Confidence, the program, here for you to take a look at. And yeah, here's to being the author that you're here to be. Really want to see your book out in the world. All right, my loves, I will see you soon. Have an amazing rest of the day. And yeah, happy equinox.